Hi, this is AD here for CG Masters, and today I'd like to take a look at the outliner video, or at least specifically following up from the outliner video, some of the comments, queries, general questions, and a couple of additions that we've had in development since that video was done. And so we're going to approach this in a similar style as Lee did with a recent video, in this kind of video log kind of format, as that might be the best way to try and approach some of this. So I'm using Blender 2.74, the release candidate anyway, and this will become significant a little bit later on when we take a look at a couple of the additions that we've got. And also we're going to start with these comments here. This is from the main page from CG Jam, and this says basically, what is the point of highlighting objects in the outliner? And basically what we can do here, what CG Jam is referring to, is that we can press B and then border select across a bunch of objects like this, and then if we try to now click and drag to parent them all to this cube.006, for example, and we try and do that, you can see that only the one I actually clicked on is the one that got enabled as a child of that cube.006. So what's the point of being able to highlight all this stuff? Well, from what I can tell anyway, it's the main reason that you might like to do that is because of the we've got a few hotkeys in here. For example, the renderability hotkey is the R, and if we just press R, we can see that the camera icons all grey out there, so the renderability is now off for those objects, and then we can toggle them back with the R key. Similar with the S key for selected, and also the V key for the visibility, and that's the one which is most obviously noted because we can see it updating in the viewport there. So that's the only reason that I'm aware of at the moment, but hopefully that answers that question. So we've got some other questions as well. We've got, or at least queries and people's comments, which are pretty cool sort of additional bits of information that you might find handy. For example, from Douglas, we've got the properties, materials. You can also drag and drop on an object to change its material. And what Douglas is referring to there is because we have these materials that we can get to in the outliner, and you can see we've got this awesome material, and also we've got this other let's see, in fact we might have, let's see, we've got this not so awesome material here and a not so awesome material for these two spheres. So if we wanted to take this awesome material, we can click and drag it onto the sphere there, and you can see now it's an awesome material. I'm just going to undo that with Control Z. Well, we can do that from the properties window as well. So we can click from this icon here, and we can click and drag, and then we can, in fact, let's do this the other way around. So this cube.01, where's that? This is this cube down here. We can take this not so awesome material that happens to be on this sphere that we've got selected right now, click and drag, drop it onto there, and we can see in the outliner, we'll notice this updates. You can see it's now the not so awesome material. So that's a couple of ways in which the viewport is all linked there for us to be able to kind of interact between them. So let's take a look at the next comment we've got from Shane. It's not so much a tip, more of just an overlooked feature, which is searching in the outliner. So items are expanded to find matches so that children and materials can easily be found. So let's do that. Let's try and search for a material. So we've got our not so awesome material. Let's say we're just looking for all our awesome materials. It doesn't matter whether it's not so or anything, just anything with the word awesome in. We can just type in awesome. And you can see, in fact, if I just press Shift Space to maximize the outliner so we can really see what's going on, basically we get to see all the objects. So we can see at a glance now that we've just got these 7 objects with that happens to have an awesome material on, and well, some sort of variation on the word awesome there, I should say. So let's just get rid of that. Also, we've got from 1D_Inc, we've got also love centering outliner's view to active selected object by pressing the numpad and the plus, or the period key, depending on where you're from. And let's see, so if we collapse this down like this, and we say we've got this lamp selected, and we kind of want to know where it is in the, let's say that there's about 1 million things in this outliner right now, so it's going to be tiresome to kind of search through. We can just hit the period key to find them, obviously. We also have from Reverend Speed, which is that you can rename objects in the outliner by double clicking. So let's take a look at this lamp. Let's call this lamp of awesomeness. And you can also see from Master Xeon that you can also control click to rename. So let's do that. Lamp of, actually it's the lamp of not so awesomeness. So we can do that a couple of ways. Also from Christopher, we have the fact that the viewport selectability and renderability icons can be basically animated from within the outliner. So that could be handy here. So let's say we've got the lamp that we want to switch off at some point. We could do that by just hovering over and pressing I, and then you can see we get a keyframe now, and then we can go to the next frame. I'm just clicking the right arrow to do that, and then just uncheck that renderability, and then press I again, and now we can see if we toggle through those two keyframes with the left and right arrows, you can see that it's basically going to switch off at that point. So that's very, very handy there. And then we have from Adrian, I found recently that control clicking on the view or any of these icons over here again triggers the children states as well, which is really, I did not know this actually, which is very handy. You've got these children, these couple of cubes attached to this cube, or at least they're the spheres actually, although they have this cube-like topology. Anyway, you have this cube.004, and then you've got these objects that are children of it. And if we click on the eye icon, we can turn off the visibility, but you'll notice that the children are still there. But if we control click on the eye, you can see all the children come along with it, which is really cool. So then you have from Darren, we have the shift click on the expand icon, can basically expand the whole tree. And then also we have shift click again, just shows you your first level, and then shift A will expand everything. So let's take a look at this. Shift A expands absolutely everything, and then that I think is quite similar to control clicking on there, shift clicking, sorry. And then we can also shift click again, and then we'll be reduced back to our first level, which is pretty cool. And then we've also got from EK Knight, or is it E Knight? I'm not sure. I already recently discovered the outliner, and maybe worth checking and mentioning which of these things work in the group view for the outliner as well. So basically, if we take these two objects, I'll place these in a group. Let's take a look. It's called test group.001. So if we go Shift A and then add a group instance, test group 001, you can see that group gets added. You can see it's kind of basically those objects parented to an empty. And then what you would do is you can have filter the outliner from what's displayed to just show us our groups, and you can see there's our test group. And now if we left click and drag into the view, you can see it does in fact make another instance. If you did want it at the start of the world, by the way, you can just go Alt G and it kind of clears out the transform there. Another thing to note is the fact that what we could do is, if you want to take a look at some of the other availability within here, or at least within hotkeys and so on, what we can do, a lot of what we've discussed right now is actually available. We can sort of take a glance and see if anything ever updates. We can go Control Alt and U and then launch our user preferences. We can come to the Input tab, come down to the outliner, and you can see I've expanded that already. And then you can see that basically we've got the border select that we can do. We've got the R, S, and V that we covered to show the renderability, selectability, and visibility. We've got these keying set stuff, and we can insert the keyframes as well. And we can add drivers. And then there's the numpad plus icon stuff. Sorry, numpad plus showing us the active object that we have selected. Page up and page down, numpad plus, numpad minus, so all of the things that we've sort of been doing. So if you want to track down a few things of any area of Blender really, this is a good place to look. So let's take a look at the couple of extra functionality that we've now got, 2.74 and upwards. And one of the things we've got is to be able to see our orphan data. So if we just click on that, we can see that we've got these brushes and we've got these actions as well. So We added some actions before with the toggling the renderability on, but we've since deleted those, and you can see there they are. So something that we can do is we can actually save them by clicking on the little X's, and now they've been essentially, it's like putting an F, which is kind of like forcing to not, even though it's not got any users, it's basically going to make sure that it doesn't lose anything when you shut down. Basically, in case you're unaware of what happens with Blender, is if you have some data within there that no object in the scene is actually using, it kind of interprets that as being like nothing, nobody's using me. It's like 0 users. And what that means is when you close down Blender and then reopen it again, much of that will be purged. And that's what kind of this is all about here at the top right corner. We've got this purge all. So if we kind of uncheck that so it's no longer kind of being forced to be saved, we can purge all, and you can see then we basically got rid of everything. Now, we can see this in action kind of a little bit by taking, making a new texture. Let's give it a little bit more space actually in the properties. So we've got this texture image. We can now make this a clouds texture, and then that's fine. We've got it, and we've got clouds example. And so then we can get rid of this. Let's find it. Let's see where we're going to get rid of this. We're going to get rid of this here. And then you can see it jumps into our orphan data because now nobody's using it. It's a lonely cloud example. So we can now just save it that way if we want to look for it. Or we can see, we can obviously come into here and then you can see there's a 0 there and you can kind of lay it in. But this is a much better way of approaching it really. And then of course, if we just get rid of that, then we don't want it, we can just purge it. And then it's all, our scene is much cleaner. Another thing that we can do is in our view, we've got this sort alphabetically option, which is where things have been by default in Blender forever. But I think if we just uncheck that, you can see that things are no longer now in alphabetical order. Now the downside to this is we can't necessarily just move things around in here. I think this is more or less the order in which things have been kind of deleted and updated and this kind of thing. I'm not entirely sure what informs that order. Maybe somebody might be able to put that in the comments. But in any case, maybe that's some future development which is coming to be able to just click and drag and kind of reorder these in any way that you like, unless I'm just missing the obvious right now. But otherwise, you can just sort things alphabetically and then rename as you would always do. So that's it. Hopefully you found that some of that enlightening, or you've maybe skipped through the video, which is probably a very sensible move. But in any case, that was just hopefully kind of brought back the subject, and we'll leave it there and we'll see you next time.